coming. Crack coming. Crack coming. Don't make me pop up all this bitch and have to smack some.
Alright, hello, welcome angels. Well, I just said the whole beginning wrong. Fallen angels, welcome to my channel. You fell down to my channel, so I welcome you. Today we're going to just do another reaction video, and I'm going to treat people with, you know, girls shaking their ass and shit like that, in case you've seen some of the videos already and shit like that. But I do want to say that I'm having a problem with my case because I got threatened about my channel because there's girls shaking their ass, you know, by the CPS lady, saying that I should take my channel down, I should take my videos down because all I got is girls shaking their ass and shit. She's, with all due respects, I have no problems, but she's a transition. It's Charles, but she identifies as Katie, and I think that's a little why she thinks I'm like taking advantage of girls by putting them on my channel shaking their ass. I don't know, but she says it wouldn't help me in court and stuff like that. Basically, she's threatening me with my kid if I don't take my channel down and stuff like that. So I reported all that. I told my lawyer and stuff like that, and I'm gonna do the right thing. I'm not going to do nothing at all. I'm going to keep going because one has nothing to do with the other. This has nothing to do with my court case. This has nothing to do with me being a father, me being a parent, you know. One has nothing to do with the other. She's overstepping the boundaries. And she's trying to say that even though I got a completion and you know, my fiance got a completion, that we have to go back and like to the outpatient or something. Like she's going beyond her means, because our rules were we go to the outpatient, and we went to an Oasis place, and whatever they say to do, we have to follow. And we did. We followed everything that they said. The lady said we took the urines clean, and she wrote to Katie, you know, gave us certificates and everything. So no, I'm not going to go back. We're going to go to court and discuss this with my lawyer, and I'm going to bring all this stuff up. But I figured I'd let you guys know that, you know, just a bunch of bullshit. That's why I'm dealing with a lot of shit. That's why I'm not being consistent with my my videos, you know what I mean? Because I got a lot of shit going on, and it's kind of stressing me out. But here I go. I'm gonna sit and react, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Kardashians are involved in human trafficking? According to Kanye, that's true. Kanye is currently being sued by his former director of intelligence, and the allegations this man has laid out in the lawsuit are crazy. For one, he says he was paid by Kanye to investigate the Kardashian family for criminal ties and human trafficking. He claims Kanye also paid him to travel to Australia and follow around his now wife Bianca Censori while she was there on a solo trip visiting family. And honestly, the allegations just get worse. The former employee, who's known as John Doe in the lawsuit, says that he got a call back in 2022 that the Donda Academy, which is the private school Kanye started in California, was abusing the children. He says when he told Kanye about the reports, Kanye flipped out on him and screamed, "You are effing dead to me," and said if he told anybody, Kanye would physically harm him. He also says that during this time, Kanye was heavily abusing nitrous oxide, and this is the same time period where he got his permanent titanium teeth. The former employee is suing for emotional distress, retaliation, and unpaid.
So I'm making a controversial video about this piece of art, as I do, and I scroll past this cymatic pattern posted by Cadboy. Logically, I'm like, probably inspired by this cymatic pattern, except this was made in 2019, and this one's in 2025. One of two possibilities here. So this is either the greatest coincidence ever, or the two are connected in some magical way, and I figured out the magical way. It's 5-point perspective. Really easy. 1-point perspective, 1 point, 2 point, 2 points, 3 points, 3 point. You get it? 5-point perspective has 5 points of perspective. 5-point perspective is how you see everything. It's the God's eye view. Example, logarithmic universe. What we can see of the universe from the sun's perspective, that's what it looks like from Earth's perspective. That is the same way that music is perceived. That logarithmic spiral is used to divide sound into harmonics. It can do that because that's how sound travels in spirals. The lines on the equalizer are where those divides are. Even ask your best friend AI, it'll tell you it's a cosmic perspective. That was a lot, so how are these two connected with that? Within the geometry of your actual eye is that perceptive ratio. Greeks called it phi because there are 5 V's. They understood that you are an image of that creation, from your hand to your arm to your ear. Our 5 senses not only connect us to sound, they allow us to perceive nature in its natural logarithmic spirals. As humans, we're connected to that God's eye perspective by the molecule that contains that same spiral ratio. So, artists translate the science of that connection through you experiencing their art. That's insane.
This will blow your mind. In a world's first, researchers at Osmo Labs have achieved the teleportation of smell. I mean, do you realize how crazy that is? Let me put it this way. So, as of right now, humans have only figured out how to teleport 2 of our senses. Sound, with the telephone or speakers, and images with the screens that we look at all day. And we've done that because we've discovered a way to capture those senses digitally and then turn them into data that we can then send instantly. But now they have managed to do that with smell. So hypothetically, once they're able to replicate this process on machines outside of the lab, not only one day could you send someone a smell like you send them an image or a voice note. Oh my lord, the businesses that are gonna come out of that one, I'll let the comments handle that. But also, and here's the craziest part, they say that by digitizing scent, they've effectively given computers a new sense. You better wake up in 2030 and your iPhone's gonna tell you you stink. Go get a shower. Now, the first smell they ever digitized was fresh plum. They captured the scent molecules in a digital format and then reprinted the exact same smell on the other side of the room, which came out looking like a regular clear liquid. And I guess that begs the question, what's gonna happen to all of these expensive colognes once you can immediately reproduce them? Osmo Labs CEO on Twitter said, "Holy moly, I am still processing the magnitude of what we've done."
Greenland is so much more than a political flashpoint, and I want to point out some facts about Greenland that people might not actually know about. First of all, Greenland is the world's largest island. Yes, it is an island that is not a continent, covering about 2.17 million square kilometers. That's larger than the combined land area of not only France and Germany, but also Spain, the UK, Italy, Greece, but also Switzerland and Belgium. Yes, it is that massive. And about 88% of Greenland's population is either Inuit or Kalaalleq, with the remainder being primarily Danish or from other countries. Also, over 80% of the island is actually covered by an ice sheet. An ice sheet that actually contains about 7% of the world's fresh water, if you didn't know. And did you know that there's actually no roads connecting towns in Greenland? People travel by boat, plane, helicopter, even dog sled. Also, if you didn't know, Greenland is not an independent country. It's actually an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. It has its own parliament and government. And the US actually formally explored buying Greenland from Denmark in 1946. Harry Truman actually offered $100 million in gold, an idea that Denmark quickly rejected. Those natural resources are worth much more than any amount of gold. But see, the most important fact about Greenland is that it is a very strategic territory, which is why you see that orange motherfucker backing down, because he knows that he cannot take the heat. He knows that this country is no longer a superpower as it once was, and the indigenous will always deserve to be free of corruption.
Russia has warned of the end of the world if Trump follows through on his promise to take Greenland. This comes after Germany, Sweden, France and Norway deployed troops for joint exercises with Denmark. Trump has repeatedly stated that anything less than US control of the island is unacceptable.
Look at this intricately carved.
Now this is crazy because this guy's talking about taking Canada, Venezuela, Denmark. Like we're going to go to war soon, and Russia's not going to take America just running around just taking countries, especially when we didn't let Russia take what fucking country. We kept supplying the missiles to like protect themselves. We got a lot of bad coming, I think, and I hope not.
Carved stone ceiling of the Chinakashava temple in India. What do you see? An exquisite ornament? Or a highly complex mechanism, as if taken from the pages of a science fiction novel? The masters of the 13th century created this marvel without modern tools.
Hundreds of years ago, alchemists discovered that when you heat lead in a sealed vessel with no oxygen, it emits a faint glow in complete darkness. They called this the black light, or the shadow of the sun, and it's the foundation of the esoteric teaching that darkness isn't the absence of light, but inverted light, and that true illumination requires descending all the way down into this inverse radiance where normal perception completely reverses. This is the doctrine of inverted light, and it appears in every advanced esoteric practice from Kabbalah to Tantra. Let's start at the foundation with the original alchemical discovery. In the Nigredo stage, or the blackening, it's the first phase of the great work. Alchemists sealed raw matter in the hermetic vessel and subjugated it to prolonged heat. They called this cooking in darkness. Here's what they observed. At the darkest point, when the matter had completely decomposed into a formless black mass, a strange luminescence appeared. Not a bright light, but a dark glow. A phosphorescence that could only be seen with eyes that were adjusted to total darkness. They described it as Sol Niger, or the black sun. The light that shines in absolute darkness but would be invisible in daylight. This wasn't symbolic. They literally saw it, recorded it, and built an entire metaphysics around it. Now here's the teaching. There's a light that only appears when all normal light is removed, a radiance hidden in shadow, an illumination that requires blindness to ordinary vision. Now they use different words, but this comes up in Kabbalah too, so let's see what they have to say about this concept. Well, in Kabbalistic cosmology, before creation, God performed Zimtzum, or divine contraction. God withdraws, creates a void, and into that void emanates the first light. But Isaac Luria, the 16th century Kabbalist, taught something even deeper. When God withdrew, he left behind Rishmu, a residue, a trace, an inverse impression of divine light. This residue is an illumination as we understand it. It's the negative space, or the shadow print. It's literally the inverted image of God. Creation happens in this inverse space. We're not living in pure divine light, we're living in the impression left after light withdrew. What we call reality is the photo-negative of the divine. Luria taught that to reach the true light, you must first enter this residue, this backward realm, and learn to see by inverted vision. The Sephiroth themselves cast shadows, and those shadows are inverted light that must be confronted and not avoided. And of course, this has everything to do with the backward tree, so let's cover that real quick. The Tree of Life has a shadow, also known as the Tree of Death or the Qliphothic Tree. It's not evil in the simple sense, it's the inverse of every divine attribute. Let's dive into it. First, you have Keter, or the crown, which inverts into Thaumiel, or the dual contenders. This is where unity splits into opposition. Then you have Chesed, or mercy, which inverts into Gahag Shablah, or the breakers. Boundless giving becoming consuming. And then you have Tiferet, or beauty, and that inverts into Tigirian, or the disputers, where harmony becomes discord. These aren't separate entities, they are the same forces running backward, the same light flowing in reverse direction. So Kabbalists who work with the Qliphoth aren't worshipping demons, they're learning to navigate inverted consciousness and to read reality from the inside out. Here's the teaching. You can't fully integrate the Tree of Light until you've walked the Tree of Shadow and understood that they're the same tree reflected in a black mirror. And it doesn't stop there, so let's talk about the Tantric Vama Marga. In Tantra, there are two paths, Dakshina Marga, or the right-hand path, and Vama Marga, or the left-hand path. Vama means contrary or reverse in this context, so the left-hand path deliberately inverts normal practice. What's forbidden becomes sacred, and what's impure becomes purifying. Sexual union, intoxication, meat-eating, cremation, ground meditation, all the things that Orthodox practice forbids, Vama Marga uses as gateways. Why, you may ask? Well, because these practices reverse the flow of consciousness, they break conventional conditioning, and they force you to find the sacred in what you've been taught is profane. The Aghori sect takes this to extremes, meditating on corpses, handling human remains, and eating from skulls. And they're not being morbid, they're inverting the normal fear response to death, learning to see the divine light shining backward through decay. This is the principle. What you reject becomes your shadow, and only by entering what you've forbidden can you integrate it and see the inverted light that's hidden there. Even the Gnostics have an entire reverse cosmology, so let's talk about it. Gnostics taught that the material world is inverted divine reality, and what appears as light here is actually shadow, and what appears as shadow here is actually light from the pleroma breaking through. The Demiurge created a prison by inverting everything. Good became evil, truth became lies, and freedom became bondage. He installed a reverse value system so convincing that humans worship their chains as salvation. The serpent offering knowledge, that's inverted light breaking into the false light of the Demiurge. What looks like darkness, or the serpent, is actually illumination, and what looks like light, the Demiurge's commands, is actually blindness. Gnosis is learning to see with inverted perception, recognizing that this world's light is shadow and this world's shadow contains all of the real light. And this also reminds me of the Black Madonna icons. Across Europe, there are many Black Madonna icons, Mary depicted with dark or black skin. Orthodox explanation says that the wood aged and the paint darkened over centuries, but the esoteric explanation says that the Black Madonna is the inverted light principle incarnate. She's the divine feminine that gestates in darkness, the wisdom hidden in shadow, and the mother energy that only appears when solar consciousness withdraws. Alchemists venerated the Black Madonna as the prima materia in its darkest stage, the womb void where transformation begins. She's not corrupted or damaged, she's deliberately dark because she represents the inverse illumination that is necessary for rebirth. Chartres Cathedral, built by initiates, centers on a Black Madonna in the crypt, underground and in darkness, where pilgrims descend to encounter the inverted light before ascending back to daylight. But why does the inverted light matter anyways? Well, normal consciousness operates in what Kabbalah calls or yeshar, straight light, direct illumination. This is waking awareness, the rational mind and surface perception. It's necessary, but it's limited. Inverted light is or hoser, or returning light, reflected light, and light that bounces back from encountering boundary. This is dream consciousness, intuition, and the perception that emerges when rational mind fails. Advanced practice requires learning to see by inverted light, not instead of normal vision, but in addition to it. You develop binocular spiritual vision, one eye seeing in straight light or the manifest, and one eye seeing an inverted light or the hidden. When both function simultaneously, you achieve what Kabbalists call the secret of the two eyes, the ability to perceive reality and its inverse at once, to see the tree of life and tree of death as one tree, and to recognize that light and its inversion are eternally inseparable. So yeah, inverted light is no metaphor. It's the esoteric principle that darkness contains its own radiance visible only to consciousness that has learned how to see backward, that shadow is concentrated light folded into itself, and that the deepest illumination requires descending into the black sun, the backward tree, the reverse flow, where everything you thought was light reveals itself as shadow, and everything you thought was shadow reveals itself as the light you were seeking all along. So if you want to learn more about advanced alchemical and esoteric concepts, make sure to like the video, let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and follow for more deep dives like this. Until next time.
Pretty deep stuff, and I would go down that rabbit hole if I were you. Morg, he's excellent with stuff like that. I watch him and I learn a lot from him. Oh.
The Talmud and the Kabbalah are satanic.
The Babylonian
cults.
Talmud. Is
Yes,
that what it is?
yes.
Okay.
Those are satanic cults.
And are those satanic cults controlled, or were they created by these ancient Iranian bloodlines?
Yes, they were.
Please expand.
For instance, the Aldobrandini is one of the ancient Iranian bloodlines. It's a famous Italian family. Mm-hmm. And Al is the, Dob is devil. Dini.
The people of the devil.
Yeah, the people of the devil.
Wow.
So they're definitely satanic. They're proud of it. They're open about it. We have a website, lorenmarais.info, and we have a Rothschild ball with photographs of the Rothschilds and their guests and members of their family doing satanic practices.
This is the masked ball photos?
The masked ball.
And by the way, they're called Venetian masks, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
My favorite story of the day is that quantum photography has revealed that two entangled photons look almost identical to a yin-yang. You can see the left uncolored photo here of the raw image, and then one that's been recolored to show it just a little bit more clearly on the right-hand side. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a yin-yang, yin and yang, the classic Chinese Confucius symbol. You've probably seen this on temples. You've probably seen this in martial arts films. If you're familiar with my content, well, you've probably just seen it here on my arm. We'll get a nice close-up of that. And I think this is super cool. So what these aren't atoms, these are photons that have been entangled. That's kind of what quantum computing is running on at the moment and a focus of research. And you might have heard about Einstein's spooky action at a distance, which is when photons become entangled with each other, their properties also become entangled. And even though you can separate them, if you collapse one photon, to the best of our ability to tell, the other photon will collapse in a similar or identical way, if I'm not mistaken, despite the distance. A lot of our theory is that information itself cannot travel faster than the speed of light, and this tentatively seems to violate that. And I find that kind of surprising. And what's also very cool about this is the way it works. Quantum tomography. By taking a complex quantum state and applying a projection to it, they measure some property belonging to the state, such as its polarity, momentum, isolation, others, and they repeat this multiple times with each other to get multiple states, because a quantum object can have a variety of states. And then the hard part is getting rid of the disallowed non-physical states that make
the magic crystal. CIA.gov, approved for release May 17, 2002. Welcome to the ADHD zone. It's always different here. Technology division, the magic crystal. You can see that crystal's crossed out and written with crystal over again here. Could a device be created which would prove definitely whether or not an individual possesses electrical potential or biofield? Does a device already exist? Doctor of Technical Science G. Sergi responds, one might say that the brain, even the entire human body, is nothing more than liquid crystal.
Normally I wouldn't make this video, but considering how many people feel exactly the same way this person does, including myself, I think it needs to be said. Plus, for the exhausting amount of content creators that are on social media pushing their hate-filled political bullshit, claiming to be a truth seeker, I feel like I owe it to the rest of us that are just out here for the greater good to point out when we get validated. Yesterday, at about the same time that I was making that video about dust and nanotechnology, during an interview at Davos for the World Economic Forum, our president said this.
Things happen, bad things happen. The things that we can stop are wars if we're smart. That we can stop. Those are a matter of being intelligent and having intelligent people on the other side, because wars are the worst of all. Wars are worse than anything. But we can stop wars because that's sort of up to us. But things like dust flying in the air, wherever COVID comes from or whatever comes, sometimes you have to be a little bit lucky.
The things we can't stop is the dust in the air. Y'all awake yet? Or you want to keep sitting around waiting for somebody to save us? Let me know. Y'all stay safe.
Wait, hold up. Is Trump about to end the Federal Reserve? Let's get into it. Because it's just been reported that the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, is now under criminal investigation. So in short, this is from last summer, where Jerome Powell met with Congress to get a budget approved for the renovations for the Federal Reserve. But Trump says, not so fast, you're cooking the books, which has now led to a full-blown investigation.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee.
What a time to...
About time. Federal Reserve, they're not federal, they don't have no reserves, yet we borrow money from them. They're a private company, and we pay them taxes, like interest and all that. It's about fucking time. That's what the Titanic was all about, but that's another time, another video.
Be alive. You guys, if the Fed goes down, we are reshaping the face of America and the entire financial system as we know it. And it's already starting to take shape, because Trump also says the credit card companies will be in violation of the law if they charge over 10% interest rates starting January 20th. And you guys, mind you, the current average credit card interest rate right now is 20 to 21%, and that's with a 700 credit score. But it doesn't stop there. So Trump also said he is banning all these major financial institutions from buying up homes. So like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, they buy up blocks of homes and re-rent them back to you at a premium. which he states here, I'm immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying up single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. I mean, the fact that over 80% of millionaires in America are made from real estate doesn't seem like a bad idea. And the fact that this guy who tried to take out Trump that one time, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was actually in a BlackRock commercial, so there's that. Now, if the Fed does end in the near future, it's just another telltale sign, like this is a telltale sign, because just quietly, Wells Fargo has just purchased $383 million worth of Bitcoin. But nobody knew. Then Bitcoin starts to take off, like now. Then the SEC removes crypto from its 2026 risk list. Are we seeing a trend yet? I'll say it once and I'll say it again. Don't get left behind because the new system is here. Make sure you guys hit up my YouTube, The Maverick Approach, but let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
This is the biggest question that humanity has yet to solve, and it deals with our existence and the nature of reality itself. What is consciousness, and how is it connected to the universe? While the current models for science believes that the brain produces consciousness, a recent paper explores a different possibility where consciousness might be a fundamental aspect to our reality, just like space and time. And it says that everything comes from these three principles. Number one, there's this universal mind, which is not your personal brain, but this higher universal intelligence that is the creative source for all possibilities. Number two is universal consciousness, which is the ability to be aware. It allows for experience itself to exist, and without it, nothing can be ever felt or known. Number three is universal thought, which is not individual thinking, but it's responsible for transforming undifferentiated potentials into specific experiences. And in this model, thought plays a similar role to the collapse in quantum theory. And these three principles explain how reality emerges, to which the paper suggests that the universe began when this universal consciousness started to differentiate or expressing itself in different forms, which aligns with spiritual traditions such as Advaita Vedanta, Christianity, Buddhism, and Islamic Sufism. Therefore, our individual human consciousness is not separate, but actually is a localized expression from this universal consciousness, where each person is a wave in this vast ocean, and that the experience of separation is an illusion created by this universal thought process. And your personal thoughts take over and makes you feel like you're separate from everything else. But underneath it all, everything is still deeply connected. Like and follow for more.
Is that a ghost in the backseat? In 1959, Mabel Chenery snapped a quick photo of her husband waiting in the car after visiting her mother's grave. When the film was developed, she froze. In the backseat, behind her husband, sat the airy figure of an older woman with glasses, looking exactly like her late mother, who always rode in that same spot. No one else had been in the car that day.
Okay guys, it happened again. It's 1:46 a.m. in the morning and disappearing.
This eerie photo was taken in 1919 and shows a group portrait of a World War I squadron. Yet behind one airman's head, an extra, misty face seems to peer out from the crowd. According to the story, that face belongs to air mechanic Freddie Jackson, who had suffered from a fatal propeller accident just 2 days prior. Jackson's funeral took place on the very day the squadron assembled for this picture, leading some to suggest that, not realizing he had passed away, he still reported to be included in the group shot.
You were looking at one of the most disturbing photos in American history. In the 1950s, the Cooper family purchased an old home in Texas and moved in. And on their first night in the house, the father took a photograph of the family to commemorate the event. The family posed at the dining room table, and everyone was happy. It was their first home, their first slice of the American dream. Weeks passed, and finally the father took the roll of film to the local pharmacy to have the pictures developed. A week later, Mr. Cooper picked up his photos, began looking through them, and was stunned. When he got to the photo he had taken of his family that first night in their new home, he saw this, a figure coming down from the ceiling, and it was not there when the father took the photo. So where had this figure come from? Was it an apparition of a deceased former tenant of the home? No one knew. Some say it's paranormal. Others argue it's just double exposure. But I ask, if it is, why is the body positioned in such an odd way? Who stands like that in a photo? No one. Or at least no one I want to know. But can you imagine going to get your film developed, excited to see these wholesome photos of your family in your new home, and you get this? And then you have to live in the home?
There are 15 major religions in the world before Christianity.
Listen to this guy. This guy's a genius. Knows everything.
That have taught the same thing. It is a very ancient, old story. That's why the Bible's called the greatest story ever told. Astrotheology is the basis for all religion in the world, period. Theology is the worship of a religion, and astro, the worship of the heavens. From as far back in history as we can go, man has always worshipped the heavens. That's why we're even told in Western civilization that when you die, you'll go to heaven. The whole concept of the sun, S-O-N, God's Son, goes directly back to the old concept of God's Son, S-U-N, being the risen Savior, because the Son is the risen Savior. It does rise. And of course, God's Son, S-U-N, the Egyptians said had an evil brother. He was the Prince of Darkness. And he came out at night to rule the world. When God's Son died and went away, the world was in the hands of the Prince of Darkness. And his name was Set. And he came out at sunset. The Egyptians said that that newborn son that came up every morning, his name was Horus. I am not saying there's not good spirituality in the Bible. I am saying that it has been twisted and used by political powers for a political agenda to keep us ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, depending on the Lord to come back to help us, when in fact there is no Lord coming back to help us. Education, knowledge, and your own personal spirituality and investigation of what the story is really about. Do your homework. That's the only salvation we have left.
I don't know whose bright idea it was to build a house right here, but when you get to this turn, you have to slow down to 10 miles per hour. Like, you see all this ice? Somebody can slide right into their house. It's crazy.
The Rothschilds were also responsible for creating the state of Israel. Look up Baron Rothschild. I mean, the family created Israel in return as a favor for financing World War II. But the banking system, if you want to talk about Illuminati or you want to talk about a one world government or a banking system, all of that, it's all money. It's all numbers. At the end of the day, whether it's the banks, it's the control of the money. All of what we're talking about has to do with the banking system, has to do with the money. The other thing that they were saying about Venezuela is there was $1 trillion in silver sitting under the palace or whatever it was. I mean, JP Morgan, a few days before that, was saying that, or not JP Morgan, but a major banking firm was about to go under. So if you go into Venezuela, you take all of their money. Did you see all the news a couple days before about the silver reserves?
No, I
Go
missed
back and
that
look at the silver reserves and then do a Google on Venezuela.
What I've been hearing is the price of gold and silver is going up.
It's never been higher, all-time high. But anytime that you're about to go into a war or you have high inflation, then it goes up. I mean, silver's up, what, 3-4 times? It's the highest it's ever been. It was like, when I was going to Louisiana, it was under $20, or it was about $20, something like that. And what is it today? It's almost 100 or something?
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'm curious. But, I mean, look at the price of precious metals. Look at all of that.
I want to show you a few things, and I want to let you be the judge. Oprah Winfrey, Candace Owens. Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah Winfrey and Candace Owens.
Their faces are perfectly aligned and symmetrical. But give me one more minute, because Oprah Winfrey and Candace Owens seem to share a very similar scar right there. Do you see it? Clear as day there, but right there, a little more faded, in the exact same spot, I would say. Wouldn't you? But keep giving me a little bit more time, because I just happened to notice that blemish right there seems to match in the exact same spot as that little hole there, like that blemish was removed. Oh, and then there's and you'll see it better when I zoom out, but you notice that one there, like there's another blemish, and hey, in the exact same spot under the eye, like it's been removed. But is there any more? Could we perhaps find, well, it looks like she had a little scar there. Oprah, poor Oprah, maybe got hit by something. Oh, and what's that on Candace? See something even more interesting? See how Oprah and Candace have very similar noses, right? Like little flatness there, both kind of wider. Well, it looks like those two noses, right? Those are the ones I just showed you, but these look different. Wouldn't you say those look different? Like these look the same and those look the same, and well, Oprah and Candace, and I wonder who this belongs to. Who does that belong to? Oh, that's Candace as well. Well, then this must be Candace. She got a nose job, right? She must have just got a nose job. Oh no, that's Lisa Left Eye Lopez, who died in 2002. Funny how
So we're saying that
they
Candace
have
is also
similar
Lisa
looks.
Left Eye
And when you
Lopez.
put Oprah and old Candace together, well, they match pretty perfectly. And so do these down here. It's almost like Candace is two different people. See how well that matches? And you saw how well that matches. Well, I wonder if we bring original Candace down. Let's bring her down. Let's see if she matches with current day Candace. It's called multiple roles. They play multiple roles and they can age reduce because they're not human. They're not human. They don't match. Candace doesn't match to Candace. Yet some of you are still trapped by her Masonic lies.
I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA.
But of course, all this for entertainment purposes. I don't really think that people on the TV fake their deaths and take on different roles and do it all in the name of hiding the fact that they don't necessarily need to age, or they can age reduce because they're fallen angels, or drink a Brina Brome, or guzzle gold juice, for crying out loud. I don't know. It's for entertainment. I definitely don't think that Oprah age reduced and became original Candace and then got sick of that role, so Lisa Left Eye Lopez faked her death and then took over that role, all in the name of manipulating your mind. No, I don't actually think that. It's entertainment, people.
God says, come let us make man in our image after our likeness. That's in Genesis 1. Many years ago, I talked with Rabbi Marvin Antelman. I asked him once about that scripture, come let us make man in our image after our likeness. And he said, both Jews and Christians misunderstand that scripture. Most people think that when they read that scripture that God is saying, come let us make a creature and we will call him man. Well, first of all, you got to ask, who is God talking to, himself? He's saying, come let us. Who's us? So he said, come let us make man in our image after our likeness. No. He said, no, that's not the way to translate it correctly. He's saying the correct understanding is God is saying to someone, come let us make man in our image after our likeness. Not make man. No. Man's already here. But come let us reform, mutate man. Let us make man in our image after our likeness. And then later on in Genesis, it says, man has now become as one of us. Now he looks like us. So if that is true, then that means today we have entities here from somewhere else, angels, gods, whatever you want to call them, that there are alien life forms here who look like humans.
This just keeps on getting weirder. These are two different women named Erica Kirk, both spelled with a K. One was the First Lady of Florida in the 1960s to the 70s, married to former Governor Claude Kirk, who passed in September, almost similar to Charlie Kirk. Claude Kirk was even mentioned as a presidential and vice presidential candidate. And when he introduced Erica to people, he introduced her as Madame X. All of these massive stories came up because everyone wanted to know who she was. And this is the other Erica Kirk people know today, and the one we've all seen all over the news for the past couple of months. But here's where it gets even crazier. They even look similar. Blonde hair, same camera-ready, polished vibe, both in the political scene, and both even...
They do look ridiculously alike, you know?
...married Republicans. Even the makeup style seems a bit similar. Even articles back then talked about her emerald green eyes. And what's the first thing people notice about Erica Kirk today? Her eyes. All I'm saying is pattern recognition matters, and it just keeps on getting weirder and weirder.
Scientists have found a hidden prehistoric world beneath Antarctica, frozen for 34 million years. I don't even want to question why everybody finding out everything they finding out. If you know, you know. We in the time of revelation, and revelation means to reveal. What I'm gonna say is, that's where I'm moving. I ain't paying no rent. If y'all want to come with me to move there, they gonna say Antarctica just so ice. I don't know ice. There are like tropical parts of Antarctica where there are volcanoes at. Where there is heat and water, there is life. So y'all know me, as soon as I saw this shit, I dove deep. If you don't know who Billy Carson is, lock in, nigga. When I see that land right there, I just want to think about all the good stuff that we were supposed to be. Either way it go, this could be really good or very, very bad. The way things are going, it's probably very bad. But if you just want to stay vibrating high, we can just say, you know what, it's not bad. We gonna live there, and only the good people gonna be there, and everybody gonna be nice to each other. Nobody gonna be stealing. You wanna know how I know we don't know shit? Cause we always finding some shit out. Even the most smartest motherfuckers we got on the planet always discovering shit. That's how you, what did we know if they keep finding shit? We don't know shit. We don't know nothing, bro. That's what I be trying to say, bro. We don't know nothing. If you act like you know anything, you don't know shit. Yo, bitch ass.
Have you noticed how we've not built any new cemeteries? Like any city, town you go to, they still have the same cemeteries they've had for hundreds of years. And people pass away all the time. Yet these cemeteries never seem to fill up. There are always open plots of land where you can bury someone. So where are the bodies? Where are they going? What's happening to them? I've got this interesting theory that I've heard. Now, in the 1970s, there was this movie called Soylent Green. Now, Soylent Green was this movie starring Charlton Heston, and it was about this futuristic city in which the world had become overpopulated. They had destroyed the oceans, they had destroyed the earth, and times were really rough. And none of the people in the city could afford to buy any groceries. They couldn't afford just the normal things we get every day at the store. So, in order to keep them from starving, they were sold this very cheap stuff that was made in the factory. It was like a squared cracker or ration, and it was called Soylent Green, or yellow or red. And the people, because they were hungry, because they were starving, they would protest like every day. They would go out into the streets and have these huge protests. But these trucks would come around, and they would pick them up and take them away. And all these people were like disappearing. So Charlton Heston's character, who is this detective, he starts investigating this mysterious case, which leads him to the factory where they make this Soylent Green. And what he discovers is that the Soylent Green is made from humans. And when you kind of look around now, right, the same things are happening that happened in that movie, right? We are slowly destroying the oceans, the earth. Groceries have become unaffordable. They are now a luxury to most. And you wonder, the foods that we're getting that are so cheap that we're able to afford to buy, the only stuff that we can eat, what is it made of? Now, I'm curious what you think. Why do you think we are not building any new cemeteries?
Yahweh is equated with Enlil, while the figure of Lucifer is identified as Ningish Zida, also known as Jesus. This deity, synonymous with the Egyptian Thoth, famed for constructing the Great Pyramids, was expelled from Egypt by his sibling Ra, or Marduk, leading to his
I have a whole library on this stuff. There is nothing I don't know about this. I could do video after video and just tell you the stories about this and how the Bibles, the religions, the world religions took these stories and converted them a little bit, because Enki said, and this was 1,000 years, so 1,500 years before there was even a Hebrew. Enki said, let us make men in our image and our likeness to, be the slaves, to get gold, because the Igigi didn't want to do it, and they had an uprising against the other Anunnaki, but that's a whole nother video.
Emergence as Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan within Mayan and Aztec traditions, before manifesting as Hermes. And
Cherokee, for example, the Hopi believe that they descended from star beings that came from the Pleiades star cluster. According to scholars, the Maya believed that powerful gods descended to Earth from the stars, including a feathered serpent known as Kukulkan.
According to Mayan legend, Kukulkan was the winged serpent, some serpent god who could fly.
Kukulkan by the Maya is depicted in a number of ways. Sometimes he is human, sometimes he's a serpent. Sometimes we see him emanating from a serpent's head. We know that there's no way that a human being can emerge from a physical serpent. So the serpent must stand for something else, either a construction or a device. Now, because we know Kukulkan is a deity, we also definitely need to consider that this device is somehow a ship, and Kukulkan emerges from within the confines of the ship to the outside world and reveals himself as a deity to the people.
Kukulkan was the creator of all life, who led the Maya into an age of scientific advancement, an advancement of art and architecture. According to ancient Maya mythology, Kukulkan left the people and said he would return one day.
Welcome to part 2 of the real reason that...
And that is how Spaniards took them over, because the prediction, was a white skinned and bearded person, and when they came over, they thought that he was that, forgot what Spaniard. You guys probably know. They thought he was Kukulkan, and he said, "Yeah, I am," and they were able to take him over pretty easily because of that.
we invaded Iraq because you and I have been lied to our entire lives. In part 1, we talked about how an archaeologist discovered the ancient city of Uruk in modern-day Iraq, and then he discovered the tomb of Gilgamesh, and coincidentally, a few months after, we invaded Iraq. Well, buckle up, because this goes so much deeper than just his tomb. Now for this video, we have to go back to the days immediately following the flood, and this brings us to Genesis 10. Genesis 10 is the genealogy of Noah. Genesis 10:1 tells us that the 3 sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Down it says Ham had Cush, and then Cush had Nimrod. So Nimrod in the Bible is Noah's great-grandson. Now why am I talking about Nimrod? Because Nimrod is Gilgamesh. In the Bible, we learn that Nimrod established a very large kingdom. He was essentially the first king of the world, and it also says that he ruled over all of the other sons of Noah. Now, because of this, there were many different peoples that would write about Nimrod. It was their personal account of who Nimrod was. The Babylonians wrote about him, the Assyrians wrote about him, the Hittites wrote about him. It says even in Palestine, tablets have been found with this man's name on them. He was obviously the most popular hero in the ancient Near East. And of course, the Sumerians wrote about him in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
This explains everything. Why we're even here. That's right, we're talking about the Anunnaki. In 1849, archaeologists unearthed 14 tablets from ancient Mesopotamia, over 4,000 years old, written by the Sumerians, the very first human civilization we know of dating back 6,000 years. These tablets contained the Eridu Genesis, and what they say could change everything. It started about 445,000 years ago, when these sky gods called the Anunnaki arrived on Earth. And their name has been translated to meaning those from which heaven to earth came. They hailed from a world far out in our solar system called Nibiru, that gets close to us every 3,600 years. And don't forget, the Sumerians had pretty advanced astronomical knowledge, somehow without the telescope. Like, they knew about all of the planet.
You see that. You see that they have all the planets. I mean, they had Jupiter, Pluto. I mean, there's a reason for that, but that's a story that I could tell you for another video. But they have the sun as every planet going around the sun, and they have each planet there, and each planet correct in size. You know, size comparing, it's not scale, obviously, but, it's correct. We didn't know about that until 1500, like when telescopes and all this. You used to get burned at the stake if you, heretic, if you said the Earth ain't the center of the galaxy, They knew that shit way before us. We relearned it.
Which sounds impossible because we know about every planet that orbits the sun, right? Well, as it turns out, NASA has been searching for what they call Planet 9 or Planet X for decades due to finding unexplained gravitational anomalies out there. And recently, Caltech astronomers published evidence of a massive planet with an extremely elongated orbit beyond Neptune, with an orbital period estimated to be around 3,600 years. What are the odds?
Nibiru.
So why come to Earth? Well, the Anunnaki apparently needed water and gold to fix their atmosphere, which is interesting because we use gold today in spacecraft for radiation shielding because it's incredibly effective. Now, according to the story, the Anunnaki originally brought their own workers called the Ajiji. They were brought in to mine gold in the Persian Gulf in Africa, but they revolted after about 250,000 years of brutal labor and were crushed. Afterwards, an Anunnaki leader named Enki created a slave race of workers by combining the Anunnaki DNA with Homo erectus around 250,000 years ago. They called this species Adamu, which in Hebrew, Adam means man. Sound familiar? Well, the Sumerian tablets were created 1,000 years before the story of Genesis in the Bible. But then things start to happen. Some Anunnaki started interbreeding with human women, and they wound up giving birth to giants. Yeah, those kind of giants that many believe were the Nephilim. And they were incredibly violent and powerful, and it just threw a whole wrench into the Anunnaki's plans. So Enki's brother, Enlil, who was leading things at the time, was like, nah, and decided that humanity needed to be wiped out and reset with a cataclysmic flood. Now, hundreds of cultures around the world have a flood myth, and many of these cultures have had zero contact with each other over the eons. So how is it that they would have all had a similar story about a flood? After the flood, the tablets say that the Anunnaki helped the surviving humans to rebuild, but they also installed certain humans as kings, family bloodlines that would rule over the rest of us to make sure that we stayed under their control, while the real rulers from Nibiru watched from afar. Some think that this system is still in place today, just with new names instead of kings and peasants. But that's all just a theory. What do you think?
The Brotherhood of the Snake is a mysterious ancient secret society that is often mentioned in conspiracy theories and alternative historical accounts. According to some theories, the Brotherhood of the Snake is believed to be one of the oldest secret societies in human history, dating back to ancient Sumeria or even earlier civilizations. The legend of the Brotherhood of the Snake suggests that the group possessed advanced knowledge and wisdom that they shared with humanity, including teachings related to science, technology, and spirituality. Some proponents of this theory claim that the Brotherhood of the Snake played a significant role in shaping human civilization, and that their influence can be seen in various ancient cultures and traditions. Founded in ancient Mesopotamia by Anu and his son Enki, these Anunnaki aliens, revered as gods in Sumerian and Akkadian mythology, are credited with bestowing secret knowledge upon humanity and establishing the Brotherhood. This story is very carefully told in the Sumerian scriptures, which go back at least 6,000 years. There it says man was created by Anunnaki aliens, who came to this planet to exploit its resources, especially gold. But the work was heavy, so the Anunnaki race wanted someone else to do the hard work. Thus Enki, who was a brilliant scientist, created Homo sapiens as a hybrid between a primitive Earth life form and the alien race. First, Homo sapiens were only meant for slave labor and couldn't breed. Later on, this was changed. Enki didn't like how his created race was treated and wanted to enlighten them by telling them who they were and where they came from. Various esoteric and occult traditions reference the serpent as a symbol of wisdom, transformation, and hidden knowledge. Gnostic writings found in the Nag Hammadi library include references to serpents symbolizing enlightenment and the pursuit of spiritual knowledge. The figure of the serpent in the Garden of Eden, for instance, is reinterpreted in Gnostic thought as a bringer of knowledge rather than a tempter. Throughout history, the serpent has appeared as a powerful symbol in art, literature, and religious iconography. From the Ouroboros to the Caduceus, these symbols suggest a deep cultural significance.
It's deep. You guys gotta.
This is the one. This explains our purpose on Earth if it's true. Y'all couldn't stop asking me about it, so here you go. I can't even say it. Who are the Anunnaki? Simple terms, they're the true OG creation myth as recorded by the ancient Sumerians, who are widely regarded as the first ever civilization in history. Predating even the Egyptians, the Sumerians existed about 6,000 years ago. And in 1849, our whole understanding of ancient history was shattered when 14 tablets over 4,000 years old were uncovered in their region of Mesopotamia. Y'all ready for this one? Because these tablets pretty much explain our purpose on Earth in the most clear-cut way possible. This is the story of the Anunnaki, the Eridu Genesis. So, 445,000 years ago, yes, I said that number correctly, supposed creator gods came to Earth in search of resources. The Anunnaki, whose name can be taken to mean those from which heaven to Earth came. They came from another world called Nibiru, one that visits Earth every 3,600 years, ruled by their king Anu. Now here's the first red flag. Another planet visiting ours this infrequently is impossible, right? Not according to NASA. In fact, they've been finding evidence of this planet for years. Except they call it Planet X, or Planet 9, and many top-ranking researchers analyzed data and pretty much all but confirmed its existence. And the reason we can't see it is because its orbit looks like this. A super elongated path around the sun that only gets close to Earth every 3,600 years. And we know orbits like this are physically possible, as they've observed in other exoplanets. Anyway, story goes on to say that living conditions on Nibiru deteriorated and became hostile. So the Anunnaki came down to Earth for some goods, specifically water and gold, which apparently helps restore their planet's health. Now, it might just be a coincidence, but gold is actually used in modern spacecraft to shield from radiation, so were the Sumerians aware of that? They established a base on Earth called Eridu, made for collecting these resources in the Persian Gulf. They send down Enki, Anu's son, to lead this expedition and rule over Eridu. With him, he brought the Igigi, another race of demigods who were essentially their slaves to gather the gold and water they needed. Now the
And right above the Persian Gulf is Eden. And they spell it E.din. And that was, like I said, 1,000 years before a Hebrew was even around. And E is home. Din is for Dinger, home for the lofty ones, for the Anunnaki. It's right at the edge of Persian Gulf when you hit Iraq. So...
Gigi were down bad after 250,000 years of slave labor with little rewards, so they revolted but lost, and now the Anunnaki had no workers. So Anu orders Enki to create a new slave race, intelligent yet obedient. Enki combines his essence with a species of cave-dwelling savages that exist on Earth at this time. That would be Homo erectus, our prehistoric ancestors. And through this process, he created humans, us. Homo sapiens. Now this combining of essence is taken to be interpreted as genetic engineering. Sounds absolutely ridiculous, I know, but y'all remember Bob Lazar? The whistleblower on all that UFO, space tech, and aliens, which literally all turned out to be true? Just listen to what he had to say about certain classified documents regarding genetic engineering.
There is an extremely classified document dealing with religion, and it's about that thing. Saying basically that basically that we're a product of genetic engineering from someone. Yeah. How can you just swallow that whole?
I don't know about you, but he clearly seemed genuinely uncomfortable talking about this, and I can't think of any reason he'd have to lie about it. So in the tablets, they called this new species the first men, translated to Adamu. Now in Hebrew, Adam translates to man, so Adamu was taken to mean men of Adam. Does that name sound familiar to you? Reminder that these tablets were dated to around 2400 BC, a whole 1,000 years before the book of Genesis was first said to be written. These new genetic hybrid humans started working the mines in place of the original Igigi, which in return for their work were educated with the gift of civilization, language, agriculture, governing, housing, technology, medicine. Some Anunnaki got a little close with the humans and bred with them. Yes, that's exactly what you think it means, and gave birth to giants, even though they were specifically instructed to not procreate with them. At this point, there's a new leader in charge, Enlil, who was Enki's brother, and he wasn't having any of this debauchery. But no biggie, because he had a population control plan in place. A cataclysmic event that wipes humanity from the Earth, said to be caused by Nibiru's gravitational effect on Earth, aka the Great Flood. How convenient. Enlil took this opportunity to dip back to Nibiru so that Earth can be rid of all these unworthy inhabitants. The translations claim that Enlil and his crew left in their celestial boats that took them to the sky and circled Earth. Hey, that sounds like spaceships, rockets, and orbits to me. But Enki felt more sympathy, so he instructed some chosen humans to build boats so they can survive the flood. Noah's Ark, anyone? The flooding lasted for 7 days, yet another creation story told by almost every other culture of our past. There is countless proof of this intense flooding all around the world, but that's a rabbit hole for another time. The small number of humans that survived the flood started to rebuild civilization. Enki and other Anunnaki helped them rebuild in all corners of the Earth, which is said to have given rise to the pyramids, megaliths, and advanced masonry techniques that we see all over the world. And eventually they left Earth and they had one civilization that was more advanced than the rest. This were the Sumerians. This exact story is even told in the Atrahasis of the Akkadians and the Enuma Elish from the Babylonians. Now this is where it gets trippy. The Anunnaki appointed kings, humans that acted as their representatives on Earth to make sure that the people still lived under their control, whose ruling authority would be passed down every generation in what would become the elite class as we know today. You know, Rothschilds, Illuminati, royal family, Freemasons, whatever you want to call it. And it's how they continue to rule Earth for thousands of years to this day from a planet far ass away. Basically, the story claims that we're a genetically engineered species that were designed as slaves to serve a ruling class. And we really do see this slave master paradigm all throughout history. Up until the last couple hundred years, the entire world population was divided into a peasant class and an upper class of royals, nobles, the rulers, kings, emperors, shoguns, and the plebs they rule over. But today, things are different. Or are they? Did the peasant class just become the modern day working class? And the ruling class now work behind the scenes in an attempt to give us the illusion of freedom?
The Bible mentions the Anunnaki also. I don't know why people don't realize this. In the Bible, the Anunnaki weren't called Anunnaki because that's just a Sumerian word that means those who from the heavens came to earth. What we do have in the Bible is a description that is semi-identical and a name that is semi-identical. They weren't called the Anunnaki, but they were called the Anakim. So who were the Anakim in the Bible? Anak was a descendant of the Nephilim, according to the Bible, and his descendants were known as the Anakim. Some biblical references that show this. We have, the land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak. Come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So we're talking about giants, the Nephilim, the same people that were the offspring of human women with fallen angels. There's another one in Deuteronomy 1:28. The people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large, with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there. Joshua 11:21-22. Joshua came at the time and cut off the Anakim from the hill country. None of the Anakim were left in the land of the Israelites. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did some remain. Deuteronomy 2:10-11. The Enim used to live there, a people strong and numerous, as tall as the Anakites, like the Anakites. They too were considered Raphites, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. The Moabites called them Emim. So the Anakim and the Nephilim were described as giants and mighty men of old, often interpreted as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Look at that. Just like in all the stories, they're all the same and they're all telling the same thing. The Anakim were said to descend from them, making them part of this ancient hybrid bloodline. This hybrid nature was half divine and half mortal. This led to the understanding that the Anakim were not fully human and that therefore they were connected to these ancient advanced beings. So you're not going to find the name and the word Anunnaki in the Bible, but you do find the Anakim. We have the name similarity, Anakim versus Anunnaki. The names sound very similar, which in nature just speculates connections. The Anakim are described as giants, so are the Anunnaki. And they both have the description of being these powerful and towering beings. Both have heavenly descent. The Nephilim were the sons of God. but in the origin stories, gods, plural, and interpreted by a lot of scholars as extraterrestrial beings. So the Anunnaki are those that came from the heaven to earth. Genesis mentions a hybridization theme. Genesis 6:4, celestial beings mating with human women. Sumerian texts describe the Anunnaki manipulating the DNA and creating these beings, Homo sapiens sapien, and then the gods themselves mating with the daughters of these men that they created. Same story. So in the Bible, Anak is a person. The Anakim are his giant descendants. So this Anak has to be a demigod or one of the Anunnaki. Both linked to the Nephilim, who were part divine beings. So when people say there's no official biblical connection between the Anakim, Anak, and Anunnaki, that's not true. I just showed you.
So the Kardashians are...
Now, that's just a huge rabbit hole, and I would have to make 1 or 2 long videos to describe it all. It's all up here, and I do know it all. And I would suggest you, if you're interested in stuff like that, to go down that rabbit hole, because it's very, very interesting and eye-opening, and it's good for your third eye, man. Like, it'll let you see stuff that a lot of the world ain't ready to accept or see. Now, that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me, watching some videos, looking at some girls, and hearing me talk. If you got anything that you want me to react to, any type of videos or any subjects, please write them below. Please leave thumbs up. If you do enjoy these videos, hit a like, and you guys will see me again. I'll be back. I'll talk to you later. All right, fallen angels.